Hey guys, welcome back. I'm here with another episode. Again, this is Happy Weeb Noises, so I want to talk about weird things that I don't see talked about at all. If you do a search for any of this stuff, it just doesn't show up. So this week, I want to go with a game that, to me, represents a transitional phase. Because when it came out, it was when I was transferring from elementary school to high school. I was one of those kids that was low-key freaking out a lot. Probably, I say a little, but probably a lot. And that game was Evolution for the Sega Dreamcast. This was one of the first RPGs. I would probably say it was the first traditional RPG. But I didn't know about this game until there was a local card shop I used to visit. And this guy who was there was playing it as they had a TV you could pay time for and play games on, because they also rented at this card shop. They rented video games at that card shop. And I watched the guy play it, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. And then I rented it on him, and he couldn't play it. But after that, I really became a fan of this series, and it's nothing special for it. It's your basic dungeon crawler with an interesting battle mechanic based around, your front line, your mid line, your back line. And if you're in the front line, you have short time in between turns, so you attack very quickly. If you're in the back line, you're very, very slow. If you're in the middle, you're average. That works into the combat. I liked it. It was a lot of fun. It was just your basic dungeon crawler. The story in the first one wasn't the deepest, but I remember it being a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed what they were doing with it. Just because at the time, Dreamcast, when I found it, Dreamcast was kind of on the way out, and by kind of, I mean I'm pretty sure Sega had already discontinued production on it. But I really liked it, and that's all I cared about because it looked really good at the time too. Nowadays it looks super dated, but it's a lot of fun. And then I remember, not even a month or two later after I finished this, probably not even a month, I ended up picking up the second one, and I picked this one up from a Toys R Us. I had to order it from downtown to bring it to a store that was closer in my area. Luckily, at that time, they were liquidating Dreamcast stuff, so this was like $20. Again, combat was more of the same. The story was a lot better in the sequel. What was neat for me is that this game actually had voiceover. It was only in Japanese, but they left it. They translated the whole game, left the audio, which for a while, that was still kind of unprecedented, even a few years ago. They just didn't really do that, but this was one of the first games that just went, it's fine, just get it out. And it kind of came out in the early Dreamcast days, as these both still have the white label on them. But the story from this one works really well into the sequel, as he gains so much notoriety after the events of the first game, which lead into the second game. So you're very famous explorer, as the whole world is based around these explorers going into dungeons and excavating items. Sometimes the items are just weapons you can use, sometimes they're stuff you can sell for cash. They're always looking for the cash, but they'll take the weapons because it helps them get better items. And that was a strong pull for me, as I kind of love that world building. So kind of society had been somewhat on a reset, and they're kind of rebuilding everything and learning tech from this old tech that they found laying around. So the whole thing is all about, exploring dungeons, finding ancient items, and then pulling them out and seeing, A, either what they're worth, or B, can you even use them. What I loved about the first game was that you had a debt you had to pay back, because your character's a well-known explorer in his little hometown, because his dad was really famous, but he also incurred a lot of debt because of it, and his kid has to pay it off. So there's an ongoing joke that no matter what he did, you just had to pay back your debt. I thought it was super funny and kind of clever. And then in the sequel, there's no debt because you paid it off with what happened at the end of this one. And you can even pay off your debt in the first one and replay the game with no debt, which makes it incredibly easy. Where this one was more based around, let's not have that mechanic because it upset a lot of people. There was even a Neo Geo Pocket Color version of this game. It only came out in Japan and Europe, as the Neo Geo Pocket just didn't really do well in North America. I would have loved that game. I remember at one point I was trying to collect Neo Geo Pocket and then realized, A, it's really hard, especially being in Canada, And it's kind of expensive, and I didn't really care to do either of those. I played the Sonic game on it, that was a lot of fun, and the card game on the Neo Geo. But there was a Evolution game for it, which was just kind of like a demake, like a 16-bit or 8-bit, whatever system it was, demake of this game, and I thought it was fun. It was kind of cool. I played it on an emulator once or twice. Didn't really get into it, but hey, at the time, back in 2000, I probably would have picked it up. And then they made these two games, and I thought that would be it. But weirdly enough, when the Dreamcast died, they actually did a port to the Nintendo GameCube. This port is actually pretty cool, as what they did is they took the scripts and they actually voiced both games, as Evolution Worlds is 1 and 2 kind of slammed together. It's more based around playing 2, as 2 plays as its normal pace here, so what you play in the Dreamcast of 2 plays the exact same here, but 1, they condensed it, so instead of doing like 10 dungeons and getting the full story, I remember this was like, you do 2 or 3, and like, story 1 is like, and we're done with that story, we're gonna go with the sequel, and that was their main focus. But what I liked about it was they actually voiced it. It's not particularly great, especially because it came out in like the early days of the GameCube, but it was cool that it was even there, and voice work wasn't a thing that was done a lot at the time, and I loved it. It made me appreciate the game even more. I always had to find better copies while trying to collect this game, as for whatever reason with the GameCube, I couldn't get the damn manual. Like, I bought it, I think I originally bought it from like Roger's Video, but it was a used copy, didn't have the manual. So eventually, I got rid of that copy. I found another copy. No manual. And then recently, I finally just gave up. When I walked to one of my local game shops, they had it. I bought it just so I could get the freaking manual, and then I got rid of the other copy. Because I just wanted the stupid manual, and I couldn't get them to separate it. But granted, they were having a Christmas sale at the time, so it wasn't that bad. But yeah, the Evolution series, nice little basic kind of RPGs. I thought they were a lot of fun. I still think they're a lot of fun to pop in, as I love the art style. As the art in this game, especially in the manual of the first game, there's actually quite a few bits of art that are in here. It's gorgeous artwork, and you just don't, again, you don't see manuals like that where, like, yes, it's explaining the game, but you just get these beautiful, detailed art of the characters exploring dungeons, leaning up against walls, trying to hide from enemies in the dungeons. It's gorgeous. And in the sequels manual, which to me is kind of special, because without it, I don't play this game, there's even an ad for Grandia 2, which was coming out later that year. I never heard of Grandia up until this point, so Grandia 2... Again, I didn't play that one on initial release, as I didn't really get into the Dreamcast till literally as it ended I got into it, and I think it was because it was so cheap when I was a kid. So I love the Sega Dreamcast, but yeah, unfortunately I was only kind of supporting it. I think I still bought a lot of games for it, because I remember we bought tons of games for a Dreamcast, but like I really started eating into its library shortly after its demise, unfortunately for myself. But that's it for today, guys. I love the Evolution series. Would it ever come back? I really don't think so. I would love for it to come back, but it's just such an odd property. I really don't see it happening. Again, it just got lost to time. But who knows? We got a Grandia HD collection a year ago, and now they're still touching it up. Who knows? Maybe somebody picked up this license and they just have no idea what to do with it. And actually, on a final note, before I forget, I want to point out 2 things. One, all of these games were actually translated and released by Ubisoft. So on the covers it says Ubisoft, as they actually translated them. And the other point I wanted to make was, so if you're looking at my box here, and maybe not all of you noticed, this is not the original box art. The original box art is underneath. I like to make my own covers sometimes, especially nowadays when I think the original box art is terrible. So I wanted to replace this one because I think they just slapped this together and kind of slapped the game out. I think Ubisoft just obviously didn't put a lot of money into it. I don't blame them. And it was just it got it out. And that's what mattered. But I think this box art is atrocious. I found whatever high-res images I could find. It's actually pretty hard to find Evolution stuff. but I found that, kind of did what I could to bring it around. I didn't spend that much time on it. I probably could have done better if I was really digging, but yeah, that's how much I love the series, is that I just wanted to change the box art. Because, like, I like these ones. These ones are great. This one I like now. This one, not so much. But it was kind of just the era it came out in. They wanted to show off the CG artwork, because nobody wants to see hand-drawn pictures on their video games. Heck, I still think they still do that now. I don't understand. Guys, that's just me. I would recommend checking out the Evolution series. It's probably easiest to play it on the Dreamcast at this time, as these are not too hard to find something out. And the GameCube one isn't too bad. I would actually say you're probably going to get more bang for your buck here, going with the GameCube one. But I do know it's not rare, but it is a pain in the ass. If that makes any sense. Again, not really wanted, but there's not a lot out there, I guess. But it doesn't go for that much last I checked. So guys, those are my thoughts on the Evolution series. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you around next time. Take care.